Good morning, everyone. Happy you could all make it. I know it's snowy out there. We were a little bit buried in uh, where we were, but yeah, I'm glad you all made it. God works. I'm going to have a simple message today, so I'm going to try and get to it, and I hope it can help you. And yeah, just make my point and allow you to receive it and use it how you will. So it's the new year, and some of you are setting goals, New Year's resolutions, as we know them a lot here. And hopefully this can help you with that in some way. And yeah, thank you again for being here. So I'm a little bit struck. God just works. So the reading I chose comes from this book, and I mean you see it in the weekly updates promoting True Mother's anthology series. And I'm not gonna get up and be here and tell you to buy it because I'm the pastor, but I'm gonna tell you that it's great. I've been so moved to read and learn more about True Mother and to hear her words. And the section I was reading that kind of inspired me for my sermon, it's just pages all strung together, not just a sentence, not a paragraph, but pages that I wish I could just read from. But I think I have to interject a little bit too and really speak personally to you all, so I won't be doing exactly that. And the video promoting True Mother's anthology series actually used a paragraph that I was going to read from. It's on page 140 in the first book, and I couldn't believe it. I hadn't seen the video yet. I saw that, and I said, I'm going to use that in my sermon. That I don't know. God works. It's proof. Yeah, so the reading comes from this first book where, True Mother's speaking directly to us, the reader, and it's moving to hear her talk about True Father. True parents talk about, God and the providence, the history, what we are to do on the front line, but to hear them talk about each other, I think is really special. And that's what I think is something special about the series, and something I'm really looking forward to is hearing True Father talk about True Mother. I think hearing how they talk about each other and how much they love each other and how much respect they have for one another is something that's really beautiful. And I included the date with the reading because I always try to keep the context in mind of what's being said. So this was 1967 in Japan, and my guess or my thought is that she's probably talking to members who are witnessing, who are fundraising, and she's really trying to motivate them and inspire them. And 1967 in Japan, what I think about might be going on there is this is a new movement. 1954 was the foundation of HSA-UWC. 1967 is 13 years later, moving on from Korea to Japan. And, there probably weren't so many protections for being in this new movement. People could disown you and your family for being even associated with this movement. So for True Mother to speak directly to members, I think was really valuable. And she knows they're suffering. That's why she's saying, when you are suffering, please think about True Father. And I think that's one of my points I'll try to make today is that, we're not doing this alone, or true parents aren't asking us things that they haven't done themselves. It's perspective. It's thinking, my leader is asking me this, my pastor is asking me this, or true parents are asking this of us. What is it now? To bless 430 families and to liberate our ancestors and to change the world around us. And that's not something that they haven't done. They're asking us to bless 430 couples. And if you haven't started, or you're looking at the number objectively, it sounds like a lot. It sounds daunting and challenging, and I agree with you, it does. But if you were able to choose between blessing the whole world and 7.5 billion people and everyone else who comes, and if it becomes 8 billion or 8.5 billion, would you choose that, or would you choose 430? Because if you want to choose 8.5 billion, I think I have a job for you. Please talk to David Rendell. He'll find a good place for you. But that's true parents' responsibility. And the excerpt that was in the video that I'm still surprised was the exact one I was going to read. True Mother talks about when she was 17. She made a determination that no matter how difficult it is to fulfill the will, I will bring it to a conclusion in my lifetime. And again, the context of this is 2012, September 3rd. This is days after True Father passed away and went to the spirit world. She's reminding us of that. She could just say, I'm just going to do my best and that's kind of it. You guys are on your own after that. But, she's keeping herself accountable that I will do this in my lifetime. She's dependent on us, but she's also very determined in her own right. In another section in the same area of this book, she even names it specifically. Within the next 20 years, I must accomplish all the things that True Father could not realize and do all the things that True Father wanted to do. That was in 2012. It's 6 years, almost 7 years later. So, 14 more years. True Mother has already said that she's doing it in her lifetime. And that's some serious commitment. That's a bold proclamation, and she's really into it. So to hear something like, creating a blessed family, creating a blessed lineage, and changing the world around you, my thinking is that the perspective of what your parents have already done is what makes it more able to be done, more able to be realized by us, as individuals and as blessed families. So when True Mother says to think of True Father when you're suffering, it gives me just comfort personally when I am having difficulties and I think about True Parents and what they've already accomplished and what they've been through. Because for me, for having difficulties or challenges in my life, I think the only thing that can motivate me to deal with them or to live responsibly is that there's not necessarily a reward, but there's some growth, that there's some development on my side, or at the very least that someone else is the recipient of my efforts. And, suffering is a strong word. I think True Parents resonate with that a lot. I know certainly God does. Maybe some of you do as well. I like to think of it as challenge more. There's an obstacle, there's a wall to climb or break through, and then, there's something on the other side, a stronger you, a more determined resolve as you continue on in your life. But what I don't want for you or for anyone else, or especially for myself, I guess, is to suffer without purpose, is to be agonizing for an indefinite period of time. A challenge or a difficult course is a course. There's a beginning and an end. But, to really just agonize and suffer, my life is difficult. I don't see the world changing. These kinds of things, there's no kind of purpose or meaning in it, and it really is suffering. And that's not what I want for any of you. That's not what I want for myself. I couldn't motivate myself in a spiritual life if that's all I experienced. But if I experienced a closeness with God through suffering, if I felt, I was mastering my connection between my soul and my body and my spirit, I'd feel it's worth it. I would make some effort, and I might even be able to smile throughout the difficulty. This is some more of True Mother's words. From now on, we must live our daily life, putting Father's teachings into practice. Until now, you only thought it in your head and said that you would practice it, but from now on, you have to become people who can practice it with the actions of your body. Therefore, you cannot say that you are not able to accomplish your responsibility because of someone else. You should come to the conclusion that everything is your responsibility, that you must work harder and that you are lacking. True Father is the one who has lived like this on the front line. And again, she's making the point, True Father is the one who exemplifies this. I've been really grateful that we've been doing the marriage course here in Columbus, and I'd recommend it if you can do it. And one thing I was that I saw a lot of value in is talking to your spouse about hurts and and not just pain and deep wounds in your relationship, but little hurts. We were trying to get out this morning, and you snapped at me, and you tell them later that when you really wanted to leave and you kind of let out your frustration at me, I felt hurt, and this is why, and this is what it felt like. Something like that. I was reminded that that's actually worth communicating. It's something small, and you can let it go. It's not a big deal, or it's not every day or something, but what you do by communicating that is you're building closeness and trust and respect for one another, because the other person may not know that they've hurt you. And even if it's not your spouse, I think other people may not know if they hurt you. And that takes more courage, to admit to someone that you've hurt them who's not close in your family or you don't live with. But what you're doing by being consistent with that is you're taking small little steps, small little growth spurts in your relationship or in your marriage, if it's with your spouse. And it's consistent effort, but it's consistent growth. And none of us are perfect, so we're going to have plenty of opportunities, but what are we going to do with them? Are they going to be opportunities for growth, or are they going to pile on and add up to our despair? My marriage is crushing me. It's weighing me down instead of lifting me up. I'm not inspired by it, or with my family members, or with some other relationship in my life. Yeah, I guess the more practical aspect of continuing to share, in your heart with and confide in your spouse or your family members that you've hurt me, or I felt hurt when you did this, is that you're not letting it build up. That's the other thing, is that it can work in the opposite direction and it can build up in the other way, and you don't want that, because if you can be a person who lets go of the little things but you don't communicate about them and your heart is still heavy with them, then eventually they don't become little things. They become something more. And eventually that does come out, because we're emotional, and we're very sensitive beings. We don't fully understand and comprehend the spirit part of ourselves. We can bury the feelings, but the inside of us in our spirit, that still receives that, and it carries that weight. And eventually, in some way, it's going to become too much. So that's how I see, it's up to us, the direction that we choose, and how are we going to use our circumstances and our environment to build us up, or to miss our opportunity, and they're going to hold us down, or make our lives more difficult, and later we won't know why. Why are things so difficult for me, and why does so much seem out of place, or things are kind of off course? So I'm personally just a big believer in responsibility and opportunities in your life. So sometimes it's not what you want to hear, but I think of it as medicine. You may not want it, it may not be fun, but when you take it, you get better. That's the kind of life I try to live, and I think that just comes out. And when I talk to people, if that's some advice I can give you, it's that it's true, and it's what has inspired me about the divine principle, is that our effort and our work, our choices, they make a difference. It can make us have a better life. It can bring us closer to God, that there is value in everything that we're going through, and in challenges, struggling, or suffering, however you label it or feel about it, what we make of it is what we get out of it. So last week, Pastor Marcus mentioned all the spiritual momentum that we have from last year, and I hope you understand and believe it, because we have been doing things. I've mentioned that we don't fully comprehend our spirits and the spirit world itself, so we may not see tangible external results in every way, but it also takes time. I really like the analogy of or the story of growing a weed compared to a bamboo, and one will take a lot of time, a lot of energy. The plant itself will need water, but you don't see any results. And the other, it grows like a weed. And if you compare yourself to other people and you see in their life, that person seems like they haven't had to try so hard, and they have just some kind of spiritual legacy, or they just have some kind of amazing life. And for you, your spiritual life or your spiritual growth might be like a bamboo, where it takes a lot of time, and all of a sudden you see a lot of growth, a great spurt. And I think spiritual momentum in your own life, it's a lot of little steps in series together, one after the other. That's how you make momentum work, is you have to keep it going. It's good once you get it started. I think that's the hard part. But once you continue on, then it's kind of pushing itself. It's kind of pushing yourself as you continue on. Yeah, so please believe it. This community does have spiritual momentum, and we are changing the environment around us. We are changing lives of other people, and this is really an exciting year for us. I'm very hopeful about it, and I hope you are too. So I really believe in us. I believe in this community. We certainly have enough spiritual energy and heads to put together on what we can do and how we can grow and develop and shape the environment around us. So thank you, everyone, and please join me in prayer. Our dearest Heavenly Mother and Heavenly Father, True Mother and True Father have both proclaimed a great many things for you. So much love and devotion that you never received as a parent from your children throughout history. They have enabled holy days to honor you the way that you should as a graceful and heavenly parent. We celebrate them now, and we honor you as much as we can to acknowledge what you haven't received for thousands of years from your family members. You haven't had your family members together, and for whoever you could be closest to, you couldn't feel love as much as you knew you wanted to, because you knew there was a better ideal from the beginning, and you knew that was taken from you. And so history has been your story of wanting to get that back, and it's been very painful for you. And unfortunately, you haven't been able to share that and be close to enough of us that can be known. But this year is an exciting year, and there's so much that can change, and so much that can improve. And we are so hopeful because of our true parents. We are so hopeful because of the blessed families that we have in our lives that make these beautiful communities of spiritual closeness and protection from lives and paths in life that hurt us and don't help us. We are so grateful to you, and we hope to be close to you and to cling to you the way that your parents do in their example. We praise you, God, and we thank you. We love you, and we pray these things in our names, Nathan Bratcher and Elisa De Silva, a blessed couple. Audrey. Thank you.